Welcome to the Choice Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Nastasha Mckeon, founder and CEO of Choice Juicery, author of Plant Food is Medicine, and naturally a health, wellness, and mindfulness enthusiast. I believe that happiness is a choice, and I built my company upon this ethos. This show is a platform where we will discuss all things health, wellness, and mindfulness in hopes of inspiring you further on your journey. We will be sharing inspiring stories, health, wellness, and mindfulness hacks, as well as anything else pertaining to living your best choice life. My hope is that you may hear something on every episode of this podcast that will genuinely be of value in your life. Welcome back to the Choice Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Nastasha Mckeon, founder and CEO of Choice Juicery and author of Plant Food is Medicine. This episode, as well as every other episode, is sponsored by Choice Juicery. So if you want to support the show, and I hope you do, you can do so by visiting us online at choicejuicery.com. Go into our online shop and shopping all of the amazing products that we are shipping nationally. Everything from my cookbook, Plant Food is Medicine, to our gluten-free bread, our power greens, our superfood protein powder, which is amazing. So many fun products on there. So pop online and give us a shop. Also, if you're in Southern California, we hope to see you in one of our shops over here. Today's guest, Mike Schmidt, who is the founder and owner and head nutrition coach of Superfood Superhuman. Mike grew up as an athlete in the suburbs of Boston, playing basketball, baseball, lacrosse, and lots of water sports. After a shoulder injury, he moved to San Diego in August of 2019 in search of his highest possible expression and happiness by diving headfirst in the wellness space. He earned both his nutrition and hormone health certifications through IIN in May of 2020. And as a result, he instantly healed his 10 years of chronic acne and hemorrhoids. He has now coached over 85 clients, did 3 retreats, appeared on over 19 guest podcasts, and overcome 16 months of burnout. He's run 11 half marathons in 2 years. Through his acne and burnout spiritual awakenings, Mike felt compelled to help others transform their health and their lives. He coaches entrepreneurs, athletes, and ambitious people on how to beat burnout and heal their relationship with food. He created an online course and community that teaches ambitious humans, lifelong learners, athletes, and entrepreneurs how to discover who they truly are and what they actually want in life. He teaches the foundation of healthy relationship with food through an unrestricted, consistent, long-term healthy lifestyle while having fun, being happy, feeling good, and having more energy, all without feeling overwhelmed. His mission is to change the world one bite at a time by empowering humans to become the absolute best version of themselves so that they can connect deeply to their highest, most authentic expression and carry an undeniable energy and happiness that others are magnetized to and inspired by. Well, without further ado, let's get Mike on here. Mike, thank you so much for being on the Choice Lifestyle Podcast today. It's so great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I know we've known each other sort of for about 3 years and we're finally making it happen. So
I know it. The last time I saw you, I think, was at the Founder Function event.
Yeah, exactly.
And since then, you've moved up to the mountains. What prompted that?
Yeah, that's a great first question. Somewhat loaded in a way, but yeah, long story short, I was living in the same apartment for about 4 years and it was great. It was in Claremont, so it's kind of tucked away up on its own hill in its own right. But yeah, it was just kind of the home of my 2 years of burnout. And then I kind of went through like a spiritual awakening. And I think there was a lot of like old stuck energy that I was still kind of dealing with just by being in that environment. And yeah, one weekend I kind of just like got triggered and was like, I feel like I need to get out of here and just like go somewhere. And actually, I met someone through Group SD as well who had a place in Big Bear. She initially offered up her place in Encinitas, and I went and checked it out. And so her and I kind of became friends. And then she told me she also has a spot in Big Bear. So I remembered that, and I had texted her, and I was like, "Any chance your house is open?" She's like, "Yeah, you can go for like a week." So I went up there, and literally within the first like 10 minutes of just like literally inhaling the mountain air, I was like, "Whoa! Like what just happened?" And first time I've lived alone, so the combination of the solitude plus nature has just been like so transformative and palpable. And I really feel like I'm deepening my relationship with God. And like for the first time in my life, I can confidently say like I'm speaking to God up here. But yeah, essentially I read this book called Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor.
I saw that
And
recommendation on your like 7 books that will change your life. I wanted to dive into that a little bit too.
it truly
But
changed
go
my life for
ahead.
sure. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And so I just started like reprogramming my limiting beliefs, and just like the space again, like being in solitude and being connected to nature has just been so powerful. And really the real reason is because of that book. And it was kind of like one of those days, it was like a Friday at 2 o'clock, and I was trying to figure out like some tax stuff and some super frustrating administrative stuff, which I'm sure you've dealt with. And
Yes.
those little things are like the things that make you want to quit entrepreneurship, oddly
Trust
enough,
me. Yes.
amongst all of it. Yeah. So I literally shut my laptop. I was like, screw this. Like, I'm going into nature. Like, I can't do this right now. Like, clearly I'm not meant to be here. I need to like just put myself in nature and go regulate my nervous system. So I went for a little kayak ride, and ended up meeting these like two older women. They're like 70 and like 75. And they live right across this little rock jump. And one of the women had lived there for like 10 years, but she had never done the rock jump. And for some reason she was like, yeah, today's the day I'm going to like jump off this rock. So it was her and her friend. And I was about to leave after I was like just having some fun jumping off the rock. I was about to get back in my kayak, like going down the rock, and they were coming up. And you know, they're older women. They probably could have figured it out on their own, but like I helped them up. And then one of the women was like just so grateful for how friendly I was. And then she was like, oh, you should come inside for some tea afterwards, like right across the way. So literally just like these two strangers. And we just like sat down for an hour and like talked like all things God, all things spirituality, nutrition, health. And then right after that, before I went home, I stopped at another spot to go swimming, and I ran into this guy, Lewis, and he was telling me how he like works for DHL, that doesn't make like a ton of money, but he says he gets a lot of time off of work. And he's like, yeah, I just take my Sprinter van and I go to like Mammoth and Tahoe and Bishop and just go to all these beautiful mountain towns. And I'm from Massachusetts. I grew up like in the summer going to lakes and stuff. And I just feel like in San Diego, there isn't a lot of lakes you can like swim in. So I just had this like light bulb moment, and I was like, wow, like why don't I just leave my apartment and like put in my notice, let my roommates know, take the necessary steps, and just like start digital nomading, because I had such
Wow.
a profound experience. And I really feel like God was speaking to me, like meeting those two women, meeting that guy Lewis, and just like having this light bulb go off in my mind. And also like coming to this house on that weekend, I was like triggered, and finding that book that really started the whole movement. So
It's
that's
crazy
how
how
I got here.
everything that happens like is so divine. If we really stop to look at it, I feel like the signs are always there and we meet the right people at the right time. And if we're open and we're really, I don't know, clear, I think we can pick up on those little subtle hints, or I like to call them God winks, because I love that book from, God, the universe, whatever you want to say. But to me, it's all the same. Like, you're getting a sign, you're getting this little coincidence or this, magical moment that unfolds. Like I help this person, I go have tea, it unfolds this beautiful conversation that leads me here, and just all the amazing synchronicities that happen that lead us to where we're going if we're open to it. I saw a post that you did recently. I'm going to mess up the name. Shinrin Yoku. It's
Mm.
something you said. I think it was like the medicine that the doctors won't prescribe to you, or most likely won't prescribe to you, forest bathing. And I feel like it's kind of, you're getting a little experience of that. And I would love to just hear your thoughts on that a little bit, because I think for me, that's medicine. It always has been. Whenever I'm in a bad place mentally, whether it's stress or I'm in a fear state, or, whatever it is, going through a break, whatever is going on where I don't feel great, like my number one go-to, my medicine is always getting into nature. Sometimes that's the ocean. I just go for a surf. Sometimes it's, going out to like, Joshua Tree, or, being in a forest, being next to trees, just like some kind of nature for me, it always seems to be such a powerful reset. So I want to start there and just kind of dive in on that.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's one of my favorite Japanese proverbs. There's many. Harahachibu is another one, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but it basically
I want to hear it.
means eat until 80% satiety. Like in America, we
Mm.
say like, "Oh, I'm full" or "I'm stuffed," but in Japan, they say, "I'm no longer hungry." Um,
Wow.
yeah, and then there's the kintsugi, which is like the metaphor of like a glass bowl dropping and like all the pieces shattering, and then your life
The
is basically just you
glass,
putting the pieces
or
back
the
together.
gold, right?
Yeah, the gold or the glass, one of those
Oh, okay.
things.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
so cool. Yeah, they like put it back together so then it becomes more valuable than it
yeah,
was before it
exactly,
was broken, because it's now mended together with gold. Ah, I
exactly.
love that one. I love that.
Yeah. And then there's another one, I forget what it's called, but it's basically all about like finding your life's purpose, like something you're good at, something you enjoy, something you can like make money doing. But anyway, I just say that to give that preface because I just love like everything that the Japanese culture does.
Mm.
But yeah, Shinrin Yoku means forest bathing. And literally there are doctors in Japan that prescribe people to go into the forest, you know, leave their phone at home, like be more mindful, look at the trees, you know, observe the birds, go barefoot, get connected to the earth. That also for me, I know you just mentioned it, like that's why I love San Diego because there is so much nature. You can go to the
Mm-hmm.
beach within literally 5 minutes. And honestly, I always told myself, I feel like I could never leave the ocean, but I've had
Mm-hmm.
such a profound experience being here in the mountains. You know, it's like 7,000 feet elevation up here and the air is super crisp. Like the house I live in is just literally surrounded by trees. And yeah, I also feel that. I think it's just like a deep resonance you can't even put words to. And it's just like unfortunate, in my opinion, that I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Flexner report, but that was something that was released in like the early 90s by John D. Rockefeller when he basically realized that pharmaceutical drugs were a cheaper way to like medicate people. And
Mm-hmm.
then like all the homeopathy was basically chalked up as pseudoscience. But like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, sleeping well and working out and eating well and going into the forest, you know, aren't
Yeah.
really things that most doctors can ever put on a prescription pad, but it works. And this is
Yeah.
what I always say to my clients is the weird stuff works. But I think the problem for most folks is that to not really any fault of their own. And that's something that I've really moved into is that like 2 years ago, that the idea that we're not separate from nature.
Mm.
And I think that's why so many people have such profound experiences in nature and they love to take vacations going into nature and they love the beach and they love the forest and they like to hike because they just feel
Mm-hmm.
most alive because you're literally connecting to nature, which is you. So therefore you're literally connecting deeper to yourself. And I say the same thing with food because food, when you eat real food, which is nature, then you're literally becoming closer to yourself by
Mm.
consuming it.
I love that. It's interesting. I think that that's a big challenge that we have. And I've talked about this a lot on the podcast in the past that we're so disconnected from nature. And I think that that's why we're, mentally sicker than we've ever been, physically sicker than we've ever been. And a lot of things that I think that we've lost touch with, that, like if you look to the animal kingdom, I know Peter Levine talks about this in somatics. I think we both geek out on that kind of stuff. But like how animals, for example, there's this famous YouTube video of an impala being chased by like a cheetah, and then the impala gets caught and it kind of goes into freeze, and then something distracts a cheetah and it gets up and runs away, and you see the impala take these big belly breaths, and then it gets up and it shakes uncontrollably, and then it prances off like nothing happened. And it's like that's a nature's response to getting rid of the trauma in the body so it doesn't stay stuck in the body, because if it did, that animal would die. And kind of like us, like we're so far removed from nature that we've forgotten how to do those things. It's not appropriate to scream, it's not appropriate to cry, it's not appropriate. We're so far removed from like our natural responses to life. Like life happens, trauma happens, but then we just like it gets bottled inside and we don't deal with it and manage it. And same thing with, eating and all of those things. We're just so far removed from where we came from that I think it's caused us to be where we are today. So I agree with all of that. Okay, we kind of just dived right into the deep stuff, which I love, but I want to go back to how you got into all this. I was reading through your bio, and obviously I know a bit about you because we've been, on social media for a while. But you had chronic acne and some other health stuff. I think I read on your bio like you were dealing with hemorrhoids, which I think is something that people should talk more about because so many people deal with that in life, and it's like an embarrassing thing that people don't talk about. So I love that you put that on your bio because I feel like some people would shy away from that. And I love that you didn't. But you had these like chronic health things that a lot of people wouldn't think that are related to health. And they would just brush it off as a symptom and they would treat the symptom and they would never get to the root cause. I was just talking to a gal, the podcast that comes out this week, who's she's an esthetician, and she was talking about the link between hormone health and acne and stuff. So yeah, I want to talk about that. Like obviously you had your own personal struggles that kind of led you into what you do now, with nutrition and hormone health and coaching and all these things. So I want to talk about your journey that kind of led you into that and how you healed from that stuff.
Yeah, thanks for the space to share that. I think one of the biggest things that I take for granted as I continue to heal on the healing journey, I don't know if you can relate to this, but is like taking for granted all the knowledge I have about health and nutrition and wellness because it becomes so ingrained into my lifestyle. And I constantly have to remind myself, like as I'm spreading the word and trying to help other people, that there's a lot of people just objectively that don't know or haven't gone through a journey that allows you to learn the things that you didn't know before that were keeping you stuck. Right. And so for me, it was like I literally struggled with chronic acne and constipation. That's why the hemorrhoids came through. Which, like you mentioned, is very embarrassing. And like, I had to like go up to my basketball coach in high school and be like, hey, this is the reason I can't play today. And obviously, like, the physical stuff on my face is like one thing that's a physical insecurity, but obviously it affected me a lot more at a mental health perspective. And yeah, like, I was just like any other kid growing up in the United States of America, like Subway and pizza and buffalo chicken calzones and sour Skittles and Gatorade. And it doesn't matter because I'm an athlete, I'll just burn it off.
Exactly.
But my metabolism was getting destroyed on the inside. And I also didn't know that the acne and the hemorrhoids had anything to do with my food, because why would I? I was never taught. And every time I went to my dermatologist, it was eat more fiber and drink more water. That was it. And I was on the, like, was it the Proactive? I was on the tretinoin cream. I almost did, I forget what it's called, the Accutane, but I decided not to because I like did my own research. And this is even before I was like awake, if you will. But
that's impressive.
I was eventually put on antibiotic, right? And so I was trying everything. And then, you know, a little TMI, but even to a point where I actually got like an operation on like some of my hemorrhoids. And it was like the most uncomfortable thing I've ever done. I couldn't even like drive. I couldn't like drive myself home because like I don't know, something with the blood flow, but like, I don't know, rushed away to my brain or something. I don't know. It was just crazy the extent that I went to like try to heal this stuff, because it affected me every single day, again, on a physical level, but more so on like a mindset and mental health level. And to keep it short, like essentially I got a shoulder injury doing calisthenics back in Boston. And then that kind of opened me up to like just being a little bit more curious about the human body. Then I started shopping at Whole Foods. I realized all the best food was coming from California as I started like reading the back of the packages. And I did a golf trip in January of 2019 with my brother. And I mean, literally the first 10 hours I was in San Diego, I was like, this place is amazing. And so then I moved in August of 2019. And then 6 months later, the pandemic hit. And then we started working from home. And then I started a meditation program through Deepak Chopra. And then I got introduced to IN, Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And literally within 5 weeks of joining that program, eradicated all my acne, all my hemorrhoids. Wow. And I was just like, what just happened? Like, I just struggled for like 10 to 12 years of my life with this chronic issue, skin health, and all these mental health issues and anxiety and depression, all this stuff. And then I've healed it in 5 weeks. Like, how come no one ever told me this?
It makes me emotional when I hear stories like that. It really does, because so many people suffer, often in silence, but they suffer and they go to the place that we're taught is what's going to help us or heal us or whatever. And we're given all these Band-Aids and we're slapping on all these Band-Aids, and we're living, you know, something you said on your feed, which is something I say all the time. I think it's in my book too, is like, you don't know that you feel bad until you feel good, because we get used to feeling bad because we live with these things. These are chronic things we live with. I grew up with a similar issue to you with constipation, like my whole life. And I remember my mom going to the doctors and the pediatrician being like, when was your last bowel movement? They always ask that in the pediatrician. And she's like, oh, I don't know, like a week or so ago. And they were like, what? You know, they're freaking out. Like, what do you mean? It was very normal and my mom had it. I had it, you know, my daughter had it. So we just thought it was something that ran in the family, which is so often we just chalk it up. Oh, acne runs in the family. These things run in the family. Here's some stuff. And I was giving my newborn baby suppositories to go to the bathroom because I didn't know better. And I didn't know that something I was eating was causing this issue. And then I was nursing and feeding my newborn, you know, the same, and she was having the same issue. So it was crazy. And it makes me sad. I get genuinely emotional about it because I've lost loved ones in my life. That's what kind of inspired my wellness journey when I was 11 years old. And it was a long journey because I didn't really have the support system that I needed as a kid to kind of help me unpack what I had learned. But as a kid, I lost a loved one to the side effects of a prescription she was given to treat the symptoms of her autoimmune disease. And after she died, I found a book in her room. I was very angry at the doctors. I talk about this a lot on the podcast. And I found this book, and the book said, How to Heal Yourself Naturally, What the Doctors Don't Want You to Know. And I was convinced it was a conspiracy. So I was like, what don't they want me to know? And I read the book cover to cover. And the seed that was planted was the father of medicine said, let food be thy medicine. And I was like, holy crap. I had no idea. We're supposed to be eating food with purpose on purpose. So that planted a seed for me that took a lot of years to take sprout and, you know, and do its thing because I wasn't really in the right environment. But I learned that really early on that like, wow, we're meant to eat food. So when I would learn this is bad for me at 11, I was like, soda's bad for me. I'll never drink soda again. And I never drank soda again. So for me, it was a very slow process of removal when I would learn, but it took me so many years to learn what I now know, to gain the nutritional philosophy that I now have, and to be where I am today. So to your point that you started with, which is like taking for granted the wisdom that we have now, because we've been on for a lot of us, it's been a lifelong journey. For me, it's been from 11 years old. I'm about to be 42, and it's been a lifelong journey. And it's crazy that it took this long to get this far, and I'm still learning and growing every day. So it shouldn't be that hard. I don't want it to be, and I love that you're doing something about that by taking what you've learned and helping others.
Thank you. Yeah, it's. I think that's why I'm so passionate about sharing it, because it was just, again, like that massive question of like, how come nobody ever taught me this, or why didn't I know this? Because if I knew it 10 years ago, I would have implemented all that stuff, because I was in pain for such a long time.
Yeah.
And I think it's just the way it goes. Honestly, that's how life works. That's how people with purpose fall into their purpose, is through pain. I've never really met anybody that like has a strong purpose that doesn't have some sort of like inspiring story. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jim Quick, but he always says it's rare to meet a strong person with an easy past.
And
I actually got
that.
I got the chills when you said, I got the chills when you said that you lost a loved one to like the medication side effects of an autoimmune disease. Because yes, the reason I started my business was because I suffered from the chronic acne for such a long time and healed it so quickly. I also had a roommate that was like going through, as 26 years old, outpatient chemotherapy for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I witnessed it firsthand. Another friend that had this like chronic heartburn issue, like I had to drive him to the hospital one time. Like my dad has had 3 different types of cancer. My mom is now on her, and this is why I'm bringing this up, my mom is now on her 3rd autoimmune disease. And as you know, like one autoimmune disease like literally breeds others. And she's also going through these treatments. And so that kind of like raised the flag in me and like gave me the chills, because, I'm always doing my best to try to help my family and my friends. And as I'm sure you know, like you can only do so much sometimes. And a lot of the times it is about the way you say it and how you approach it, and like telling the truth, even if it hurts. And so I always try my best to do that. But sometimes like when people are so indoctrinated or quite frankly hypnotized into the Western system, it's like they aren't actually even hearing what you're saying.
It's so true.
And so it's like, I said this analogy to my clients the other day, is like, if you're trying to get somebody to change their health, like it's all in good intention, it's all love, but it's almost like being an Amazon delivery guy and delivering the packages to a house where the door is locked, and the person's never going to open up the door to receive the package that you're there to give them.
Yeah, it's so true. I went through that with my dad. My dad, he was at the end of his life, he was diagnosed with high blood pressure. Back in my days when I was practicing nutrition and had clients and stuff, I would, it was such an easy fix. Like look at the diet, look at what they're eating. And it was so easy to type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, like all these things. It was so easy. It was like, okay, here you go. Let me write you a meal plan. Let me look what you're doing. Cool. I see what the problem is. And here's your meal plan. And it's like an easy fix. He really struggled to put it into practice. I think he was, struggling with like mental health stuff as well. And so they instead, he took the medication that he was prescribed, which was, and this is the dad whose mom died of complications of Western medicine. And he took the medication for the high blood pressure, but it made him severely depressed. And although my mom and dad weren't together, they stayed friends to the end. My dad called my mom at one point and he was like, I'm really struggling with depression. And she's like, well, tell me about this medication that you're on. And one of the side effects of this blood pressure medication was severe depression. And so she was like, you need to either get on a different medication. There's like this other one I can recommend. My mom knows the Western medicine world pretty well. So she, told him, call his doctor, get on this other medication, like have him switch the medication to this other one. Of course, and I'm over here like, do the meal plan, get rid of the medication.
Yeah, like rearranging the deck chairs.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, it's so easy. Just stop eating like the Walmart soup. And so, of course, he called the doctor and he was like, hey, was told about this other medication. Like, oh, well, what's the problem? Well, I'm dealing with some depression. Like, okay, yeah, no problem. We'll just write you a prescription for the depression. So instead of honoring his request to change the medication, they wrote him a prescription for depression. And it's kind of a long, complicated story, but basically because of his age, there was the warning label wasn't on the medication for suicidal thoughts and these things. Under the age of 60, it was there, but they hadn't extended it. They've now since extended it, but at the time they hadn't. And my dad ended up taking his life. And I fully, completely, 100%, as soon as he got on that depression medication, he started doing really weird things. And it happened so fast, we didn't really question it. like when the weird behavior, what's going on? Why is he doing that? But it was like a matter of literally weeks of being on this medication. And it was devastating. Wow, 2 generations gone, because of Western medicine, in my opinion and experience. I just watched what happened, and so many people, and there's a reason why that warning label now extends to people of all ages, because they're finding people were killing themselves on this medication. And so it's unfortunate just to see how the devastation, there's been so many, and there are so many other solutions, but you've got to be open, just like you said, with the packages and the Amazon delivery driver. My dad wasn't open. He wanted the easy fix. He wanted the just give me this pill and make this go away so I can keep doing the thing that I'm doing. And that's so hard for me. I guess I'm wired differently. There's this quote, I think it's Winston Churchill, I could be wrong, but it's like oftentimes people stumble upon truth. They pick themselves up, they dust themselves off, and they carry on as though nothing ever happened. And I am like the complete opposite of that. I'm like, I stumble upon truth, I'm like, oh my God, life will never be the same again. And I want that for more people. And I think that the best thing that we can do is just, walk the path to the best of our ability and hopefully inspire people, because you can't really tell someone what to do. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. They've got to want it for themselves. And I think the only way we can do that is by being that example and hopefully inspiring people along the way.
Well, first off, I just want to acknowledge your path and your journey. I never knew this about you, and thank you for sharing. And I think it's really powerful for people to hear. And I also believe that you are the person you are because of all that stuff. And it's painful. And I know it was painful, and I'm sure it still is painful, but that's what strong people do. They turn their pain into purpose. I don't think we find silver linings. We create them. We have to decide to create them. Yeah, that's heavy. That's intense. And I just want to acknowledge your journey. And thanks for sharing, because here's the thing. I think that, to your point, you're saying like, oh, in my opinion, this is how I've viewed Western medicine. And obviously you and I are in the same boat. I think that my duty as a human on this planet, like a download from God, is just to tell the truth, even if it hurts. And the thing about Western medicine, on all the research I've done, all the personal experiences I've had, the 85 plus clients I've worked with, my family members, friends, like I don't like choose Eastern medicine and like holistic medicine and alternative medicine because I'm like cooler or it's a trend or like it's just like the cool thing to do. It's because I genuinely believe it's the solution. And not only do I believe Western medicine is like, it's an option, but I actually think objectively it is dangerous. And I think that just hearing your story is also another example of that. And again, when I take so much of my knowledge for granted, I like forget how important knowing this stuff is. And then like literally yesterday, I just like spontaneously decided to rewatch the Casey and Callie Means podcast with Tucker Carlson. I don't know if you've seen that one, but I actually got a client from that podcast once because she was like, it was like I woke up like just by listening to that. And
have you read her book?
I haven't, but I literally just got the Audible yesterday.
I bawled my eyes out listening to her story, how she figured that out through. And this is coming from somebody who is like a trained medical practitioner, Yeah, me too. Yeah. Going against the grain, talk about that. Yeah.
Honestly, I think that is the biggest thing we need. We need conventional Western medicine doctors who know in their gut and their soul that what they're doing isn't really the highest level of service to the patient or the client, and just having courage to step away. And it's so hard. And I have so much sympathy for those people. As Casey also says, it's like, this is what a lot of people are taught. And like, it is a noble job, because like if someone has an emergency surgery, like, yes, we're so grateful to be able to have that. It's so lucky to be able to have Western medicine for that kind of stuff. But when it comes to chronic disease, which didn't even exist like literally 70 years ago, it's like we're just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. And again, I think for me, it's just frustrating to see family members like, have multiple cancers, have multiple autoimmune diseases. And there's obviously many factors, but in my opinion and my research and like seeing everything, especially when you understand at a foundational level that we are not separate from nature, then you begin to realize that whether it is medication, whether it is a vaccination, or whether it's like some sort of Western thing that we kind of all know is a Band-Aid, it's like basically just trying to empty the water out of a boat that has a hole in the bottom of it. And the problem is like the reason that we have side effects from medications is because it's your body saying, hey, this is poisoning me. I don't want it in me. So I'm trying to return to homeostasis and trying to like overcompensate all these different things. And that's why you're losing your iron levels and your magnesium, and you're getting headaches and you have all these side effects because your body's trying to say, hey, this isn't meant for me. And so I'm just, thank you for bringing that back up, because
of course
it's important for me, honestly, to remind myself, like, I didn't wake up in this world and be like, hey, let me like go against Western medicine. Let me say all doctors are bad. Like, no, I had an experience. I've worked with 85 clients. I've had family members. I've had friends. And it's like, I think the pandemic was the perfect reality check of like, the truth eventually comes out. Yeah. And that truth is that we have 4% of the world's population. We had 20% of all COVID deaths in the world. New Zealand and America are the only two countries in the world that are allowed to advertise pharmaceutical drugs. Wow. It's like,
can we talk about those advertisements for a minute? Like, I don't know if we are just like, have we just been so programmed? I don't watch TV. I rarely ever see commercials because of just my life. But I don't know where I was recently. I think we were in Mammoth on a trip, and the TV was on. I was in the kitchen doing something, and I heard a commercial run, and it was pharmaceuticals, and I burst into laughter. I mean, weird response. I probably should have like been crying, but I burst into laughter because it's like, is this real life? Like, it sounds like someone's making fun of a pharmaceutical commercial. Like, may cause death, may cause this, may cause suicidal thoughts, may cause blah, blah, blah. Like, ask your doctor, this is right for you. And it's just like, is this how are they paying to put this on air? Like, who would want that after hearing that? Like, do we think that that's the solution? Yeah. And, but we're so brainwashed, and it's so normalized that that's okay. Like, take this for this. And yes, it may cause all this like cascading effects of, downstream other problems and symptoms, but don't worry about that. It's going to fix the problem right now. And then we'll deal with those problems with something else later. I just think it's crazy. It's absolute madness. And I'm so far removed from it that when I hear it, it blows my freaking mind.
Yeah, that's the thing about awareness. Like, once you see something, you can't unsee it. And it's like same deal with the big food advertising. I mean, you watch, again, I also don't do this either, especially since moving to San Diego. It's like, I'm not going to sit on my couch for 8 hours a day and watch football. I'm going to be outside riding my bike and going for a hike and being in the sun. And even here in the mountains, like, there's a tiny TV, but I haven't turned it on once, except for when my brother came in town for Thanksgiving, which was his decision. But anyway, it's like you watch some football or really any TV show, like, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to see at least 2 or 3 big food commercials. And then, not ironically, maybe the next commercial segment or the same commercial segment, you're also going to see a pharmaceutical commercial. Or if you're on 60 Minutes or if you're on CBS News, it's like they know their target market. Those people are, 45 to 65, 70 years old, like all finally getting sick, because that's what happens when you get older. It's like, no, your body has just been bombarded with toxins its entire life. And it's so freaking resilient. I think that's like almost the blessing and the curse of the human body, is that it's always trying to keep you safe. So like you said before, sometimes we're just so numb, we don't even actually know like how bad we felt until we start feeling good. Or totally. I also say, like, you don't even know how tired you are until you allow yourself to rest. And like, I even had a little microcosm of this yesterday. I've been drinking cacao for the past like 2 months, and I like finally ran out, and I got a headache yesterday, which is like super rare for me, like maybe 4 or 5 times a year. And it could have been from something else. Sometimes I also mouth breathe because I have a deviated septum, all these things. But that's the level of awareness where you're like, oh, like, I kind of have a little headache. Instead of popping in Tylenol or an Advil, it's like, oh, maybe I've been drinking caffeine for 2 months straight and then I stopped, so my body's having withdrawals. Or maybe I didn't sleep that well and I was mouth breathing. So there wasn't enough oxygen getting to my brain. So that's why I have a headache.
Yeah.
So let me take some salt, or let me take my aromatherapy inhaler so I can holistically heal my brain instead of poisoning my colon with
and shutting off the symptom. Like, we're so focused on shutting off the symptom. I'm like, the symptom is your body telling you something's wrong. Why are we shutting? It's like saying, shut up. My fire alarm's going off. And instead of investigating to see if there's a fire, I'm just like, no, take the batteries out, shut that thing off. And then, we die by fire. Like, what are we doing? You have a headache, stop medicating your headache. My kids get mad at me for this because I have adult children. They're like, why are you suffering? And I'm like, it's not that I'm suffering. It's like, I'm like allowing my body to express what it needs to express. And I'm listening. If I just shut off that symptom, then I keep going. And then like, I'm not paying attention to what's actually happening and what my body is trying to communicate to me. So I do think that it's important to listen to our bodies, and obviously whenever possible, treating things holistically. I think that's so freaking important. I've been doing that since my grandma died at 11 years old. I've been kind of like, I have a headache. It's like cool rag, hydrate, like go lay low. Maybe it's time to back off of caffeine. Maybe it's, like what I'm trying to listen to what's happening so that I can make the adjustments, because my body is talking to me. And if we don't listen when our body talks, it starts to yell. And if we don't listen when it yells, it starts to scream. And that's like the bigger problems like that come our way. So I think it's important to listen to those symptoms and not just like jump to medicating.
You can't heal what you cannot feel.
So
as simple
true.
as that.
And every level, because I, on the emotional well-being side of things, I say that all the time. Like, you've got to feel it to heal it. We want to stuff our emotions down, and in doing that, we're not actually healing it. We have to feel what comes up so that we can heal it. And I'm a huge proponent for that. I was on somebody else's podcast recently, and they were asking me questions about some of the stuff. My family's been through a lot of crazy stuff, especially this past year. We had a lot of like heartache in the family. We had a major tragedy, and really rocked the whole family. And it's just been a wild year for us. And as I'm talking about it, like, I was smiling. She's like, I find it so interesting that like as you're talking about like the pain that you've been through this year, you're smiling. And I'm like, well, that's because I gave myself the space and to feel it fully. And I think that a lot of us don't do that. We'll micro feel it, then we stuff it down. We like, give me a drink. Let me go hang out with my friends. Let me go watch TV. Let me tune out. And then it keeps coming up forever because, and I think emotions do revisit us. We'll see something, we'll hear something that's going to remind us, and then we feel into it when it comes up. But I think that when we feel things fully, we don't carry the weight of it all the time. And so I think it's so important to feel. And same thing with, the physical side of things as well. So I love that.
Yeah. There's a book, I don't remember the author, but it's called The Thing Beneath the Thing. And it's all about like getting to the root of like your triggers and your emotional health and intelligence. It's a really good one. I go through these phases where I'm like, feel like I'm so busy with my business, I like forget to read. And one of my friends recommended this book to me, and I finished it in like 2 days.
Love it.
Definitely recommend that one. But
I'm gonna check it out.
I think that was on my list too.
Yeah, I think so. I screenshotted every book on your list.
Nice.
One of them that was on your list, I'm reading right now with my book club. I lead like a women's book club, and we read a book every month, and it's always some kind of self-improvement or spiritual something is what we read. And Atomic Habits is the one we're reading this month. And when I was going through your list, I was like, oh, that's on his list. That's awesome.
Yeah, reading that's a must read for sure. You're familiar with Gabor Mate?
Love Gabor Mate.
So
the myth of normal.
Yeah. So he says Western medicine's whole like dynamic is basically teaching people how to numb their pain. Whereas like holistic Eastern medicine healing is your ability to expand the capacity to hold pain. And to me, that is the only way you will ever learn. And another Jim Quick quote is, nothing ever goes away until it teaches you what you need to know. So if you're taking a medication for depression and you continue to take it and it numbs your feelings and it's numbing your feelings and it's numbing your feelings, you're actually not allowing your body to feel, like you said before, what you are meant to feel. And this is exactly like what I went through in my recent spiritual awakening and going through like this burnout of doing my corporate job and doing the business as I was trying to launch it and leave my job. And I started getting like afternoon energy crashes at like sometimes even 11 a.m. or like 1 p.m. But never happened to me before in my life. Same thing with like started having gut issues. And then I was like this health coach struggling with his health, and it was like massive imposter syndrome and like identity crisis.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there. It sucks. I know. Yeah. I get that. If anything that goes wrong with me, I'm like, but I'm like the queen of health and wellness. This can't be happening to me. Like I can't let anyone know, it's just like this terrible imposter syndrome for sure. Like, oh my God, we're actually human, and we might also occasionally have to readjust and reevaluate our stuff,
Yeah. And that's why I think stress is the ultimate killer, because I was, doing all the quote right things, all the healthy things. Like, at that time I was fasting, I was, doing ice baths, I was eating healthy, like I was sleeping well, but, working out, like all these things that like ultimately are stress. Like working out is a hormetic stress on your body. Ice bath is a hormetic stress, meaning it's like, it's good because you build back stronger, but ultimately stress is stress. And when you accumulate too much of it, whether it's your job or all these things I'm mentioning, like eventually the world's just going to come crashing down. And that's what happened to me. And I bring this up because like there were probably 4 separate times where I was like, hey, Mike, like maybe it's time to swallow your pride and maybe try some medication, which I've never, taken depression or anxiety medication before in my life. And I was like, no, like my intuition was just like, no, like that's not the solution. And although I went through depression and burnout for literally 16 months, like it was miserable. I could count on 2 hands how many like good days I had. Like it was literally probably like 8 or 9 where I like remember the days I was actually happy.
Yeah.
And so then I got into a safe space. I got into a community. I was in a space where my mentor was holding space for me where I could be vulnerable and share my emotions and release my emotions. And I posted about this recently, but like the male suicide rate is 4 times higher for men than it is for women. And to me, that's just like suppression,
Yeah.
protect my ego, protect my identity, like don't share any weakness at any cost. And literally men would literally take their own lives than, let their ego die a little bit. They'll rather literally die than let their ego die. And so I'm obviously very passionate about that because I went through, that was kind of the secondary evolution of, I started with the chronic acne, and then the second phase was kind of that, long period of burnout. And so now I'm kind of combining this nutrition intelligence with emotional intelligence, because I've really realized whether it's cigarettes, alcohol, food, TV, shopping, whatever you're addicted to, it's all just a way to try to regulate your nervous system. And so for me, like if I'm going to be of the highest service to my clients, I have to get to the root. And oftentimes that is like stuck trauma and stuck emotions. And that's why like they know what they need to do, but they just don't do it because they're stuck in the past.
And we're also like often not giving them the space to do that. We need the space. We need the presence with ourselves. We're always talking about being present with everyone else, but we need to be present with ourselves. A couple of things that I want to touch on. One, you mentioned being able to like hold like the bad too, like holding the bad and the good. One of my favorite little blips, and I don't remember where I read it or heard it, but I think it was Kamala Masters. She tells a story about going down the Ganges in a boat, and she talks about like the beauty of like the sun rising and hitting the buildings and just like the pure beauty and magic. And as she's looking at that on the one side, off to the other side, on the other bank, there's funeral smoke rising, and then like the crying and the moaning of the mourning people at a funeral. And with equanimity, she's able to hold both the beauty of, the moment and the pain and the suffering, and the other hand right on the other side. And I feel like that's such an important thing to be able to do. It's a gift to ourselves and to the world when we can hold it all. When we avoid, I always say like your ability to experience pleasure and happiness is like a direct correlation of your ability to hold your pain. Because if you limit the pain by like avoiding it, right? I'm going to avoid feeling these uncomfortable feelings, my sadness, my anger, whatever. I'm going to avoid that. I'm also not going to reach the highs because they are in direct relation to the lows. And so if we can be with our pain and be with that down, that low, whatever that is, then we also get to experience that counter, that equal opposite high, in my experience anyways. And so I think it's important to be able to hold all of it. And what else God, there was so much good stuff in there. Oh, the burnout. I think the burnout and the suicide rates and all that stuff, I think are so important to talk about. I'm not a man, but I feel like I'm often put in a masculine role in my life, not by necessarily choice, but just by the way that the cookie crumbled in my life. The cards that I was dealt, I had to kind of step up in my family. I'm the head of my family. Everyone kind of comes to me for advice, and I take care of a lot of people in my family, my mom and my children, and I run my household, my home, my small farm. I run my
Your
business
employees,
with my employees, and I just tend to be the leader in a lot of arenas in my life. And when you end up being the one who has to hold it all together for everybody else, right? Like that feeling of like, if I fail, if I make the wrong decision, if I fail, I'm going to let down a lot of people, right? If I don't make that mortgage payment, like, it's not just me, right? Like I take care of my mom, I take care of all these other people that live on my property, and they rely on me to make this thing work. And then my employees, right? Like if I fail at work, then I've got employees that aren't going to make their mortgage payments or aren't going to be able to feed their children. And so like there's a lot of weight that falls on, and it's not just men. I think it's just people in a leadership role in their life, whether you're the leader of your family, whether you're the leader of your business, but when you are in that role, there's a lot of weight on you. And I can really relate to what you were talking about with not being vulnerable, because that's something I struggle with. I've always been like, I've got to have it all together. I've got to look like I've got it all figured out, and I've got to look like I've got it all together because I'm the most capable one, right? Like I'm the leader. I'm the one that everyone looks to. So I have no choice but to keep going. And that pressure, man, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I've definitely had a lot of moments of just really struggling deeply, but completely in silence. Nobody to look to turn to. Not that they weren't there, but that I didn't know how to be weak as I thought it was, right? I didn't know how to like show that I didn't have it all figured out. I didn't know how to show that sign of vulnerability that like I'm cracking under pressure. And it's a really lonely place to be. And I was dealing with a lot of burnout in my life as well. And it's weird because I didn't know that I was in burnout. And it's so funny because we were saying earlier, you don't know that you feel bad until you experience feeling good. I had this moment a couple of years ago where I was taking my daughter to go visit her family in Australia. And so I flew her out to Australia. I spent a week with her there to get her kind of comfortable with her grandparents and her dad. And then I left there and went to Bali, and she was going to be with them for 10 days. And it was the first time I'd been alone in my adult life for 10 days. I'm either, when she would have visits with her dad, I'd have work, or I'd have my other kids, or I'd have the farm and the animals, and that, like, there's always something to do. But this is the first time where I found myself on the other side of the world, and on that side of the world, when I was awake, everyone else was sleeping. So I couldn't pick up those work calls. I couldn't be checking in and doing the thing. Like, I was literally like, there's nothing to do. There was nowhere to go, and there's no one to be. I was completely alone with myself. And I cried a lot for the first couple of days, and I didn't know why. I was just crying uncontrollably. Like, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd go for a surf and I'd go for a run, and then, I'd go get an acai bowl, and then I'd come back to my room and I'd be like, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know who to be in this space where there's nothing being demanded of me. I'd built my life around like being needed and having all these intense demands all the time. There's always somewhere to go, something to do, something to get done. I'm running from one thing to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And so without that, I didn't know who I was. And I experienced a lot of discomfort, a lot of pain, a lot of emotion. And it was crazy. By like day 5, I was thriving. I was like, I feel amazing. Like, where do I want to go? What do I want to do now? What experience do I want to have? Like, it was like, what do I want? What do I need? What feels good to me in this moment? And it was crazy because then I came home. And when I came home, I cried a lot for a different reason. For the first few days, it was like, why did I build a life that's so hard? I didn't know that my life was hard before. It was just my normal until I got quiet and I got space, and felt what it was like to just be with me. And it was intense coming back and realizing I built my life in a way that's really hard. I took on a lot. I do a lot. And that's my natural wiring. And so post, that Bali trip, I've had to learn how to try to create that space within this life that I built, where there's a lot of demands on me. And a lot of people that rely on me. And I've had to try to find that balance. I still work towards it all the time. I haven't quite figured it out just yet, but I do try to create that space and that presence in my life so that I don't have that burnout. I try to feel it when it's welling up. And then I try to clear my schedule and go spend some time alone so I don't have to run away and go to the other side of the world in order to not feel burned out,
Wow. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's really powerful. And again, just acknowledging your steadfastness and your journey and the ability to lead and step up. And I mean, even when we were at that networking event together, like I was really struck by the way you spoke. I think that's really what people remember most, is like how you make them feel. You don't always remember exactly what they say, but you remember how they made you feel. And I could just tell how genuine you are. And obviously in this conversation, it's more of the same. And I just love what you're doing. And I know we could talk forever, but yeah, I would love to hear even more about your story and your journey, because I've never met anyone that owns like a cafe or a juice bar or some sort of wellness business that hasn't had some sort of inspiring story. And so every time I go to a cafe, like in a new city, and I see like how intentional the ingredients are, I'm like, all right, what happened to this person? And when I moved to San Diego, literally as soon as I started getting into the, nutritional awakening, I would always, and I do this at every city I go to, I literally just search like organic food near me. And so obviously, like when I started getting acclimated into San Diego, your juice bar choice was one that came up. And I used to work downtown in my corporate job, and it was like whatever 10-minute walk from my office in Little Italy, and I'd go there like 3 or 4 times a week, and I was like the only healthy guy, like, eating in the office, and everyone's looking at me like, why are you drinking that juice and all this stuff? But I don't care, because I'm just doing what makes me feel good. But yeah, I love everything that you just said there. And I think, yeah, that analogy we keep bringing up is just perfect. And it's interesting because after I was like working a lot and then hosted a retreat in my backyard, I was also feeling like a lot of energy. Some of it was like really good, but it was just like a lot of work, a lot of stuff happening. And the next day I went to a fruit farm, like just outside San Diego, like an hour. And it was in this tiny home. And I turned my phone off for 5 days, and I've actually made a post about it. Maybe we could put it in the show notes, but the post was like, top 5 takeaways after 5-day detox in the woods. And one of the things I like viscerally remember is that literally within the first 2 days, and to your point, it's hard to sit with your emotions. It's hard to do nothing. So I say to my clients a lot, it's like, I genuinely believe it's actually harder to do nothing than it is to do something, especially in the modern day world where we're so wound up and like our cortisol is always just cranking. And so it's like in the modern day, it's so much different, but in the primal days, it's like we need the cortisol, we need the adrenaline to rush to our brain to like be focused and like have this adrenaline to have all this energy, because the signals from the environment that we're sending is that we're in chronic like survival mode, even though we're like safer than we've ever been. So what happened in the first 2 days without my phone and literally just doing nothing outside of like a couple of walks around like the property and just like literally laying down on the floor staring at the ceiling, I think it was 6 naps in 2 days. And what I realized was that my body was so drained and so strung out and so just like nonstop working cortisol mode. This is what you said before, like you don't know how bad you felt until you start feeling good. You also don't know how tired you are until you allow yourself to rest. And again, I think that's kind of the blessing and the curse of the human body, is like sometimes we're on such like a high hypervigilance and like such high amount of adrenaline, whether it's because we're taking too many medications or we're taking too much caffeine or our job is stressing us out all the time. And it's like our body's perfect. Even these things that these mechanisms and these feedback and these symptoms that come to us, they feel like they don't serve us, but they're there for a reason. It's to teach us, is to, send a signal, like you said, like the fire alarm going off. You can't just unscrew the batteries. And so, yeah, it's just wild. Like, I think this is what I really want people to know, is that like, and I'm still working on this and just giving myself as much grace as possible so I can transfer it to other people. I feel like I do a pretty good job of that, but it's like, oh, everyone just wants the quick fix. They just want to take, the medication. They want to take the GLP-1, or they want to, take the depression medication. It's not really the root solution. And I also don't blame you. Like, it's not your fault. Like, it is your responsibility, but the way that the system is set up, like, I think a lot of people put blame on themselves. Like, I have ADHD, I have depression, I have cancer, I have all these things. It's like, it's not your fault. Like, we're not separate from nature. Yet the environment that we live in lives in exact opposition to how our biology works. And then you wonder why you get all these things. Like, what happens when you put a dog in a crate? What happens when you pull a fish out of water? Like, when you pull the thing that's supposed to be in one environment and put it into another that's not meant to be in, shit's going to happen. So I just want to let people know, like, whatever you're dealing with, it's not your fault.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Gosh, thank you for saying that. One of the things that you help people with is helping them to have a healthy relationship to food. That's one of like the main things that I think you do. And I just want to leave everybody with some tangible takeaway on that, because I think that we all got there in different ways. And I don't know what your process is like. I know you work with clients on this as well. And I want them to have some sort of tangible takeaway, because I think at the end of the day, nutritional philosophies aside, because I think there's a lot of different ways to get to the end goal, but like the key thing being having that healthy relationship to food. I was reading the Atomic Habits book that we both appreciate so far. I haven't finished it, but one of the things they were talking about this morning was just how you continue to make these micro decisions, for better or for worse, like the 1% little micro decisions that you're making. It's like, it was talking about if you're flying from like LAX to New York, for example, and you just like change the course by like 1-2%, you're gonna end up in Washington, DC. And you won't even notice it when you first take off, right? Because it's a very micro change, but you're gonna end up in a totally different destination. And that really struck a chord with me, because I think it's not just about what we do, it's also about what we don't do, right? It's those little micro decisions. Like, okay, if you had one bad meal, no big deal, get back on track. But then if that becomes a pattern or a habit of behavior, you might not notice those small changes in that first week or 2 weeks, but it's in a year from now, if you continue on that path, where that's going to lead you. And the same thing goes for making good decisions. If you make that one small meal, that one good choice you make, you don't see a result right away. Oftentimes it's frustrating. You go back to doing what you were doing before. And so how do people go? What are some tools that you've found to be helpful, teaching people how to have that healthy relationship to food and getting there with the mindset and those small changes that lead to great changes down the road?
I'll do my best to say it as succinctly as possible. I believe that food is a form of self-respect. If you know Chick-fil-A, if you know Subway, if you know Starbucks, if you know Dunkin' Donuts isn't good for you and you still eat it, why? You have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? If you know something isn't good for you, you have a conscious thought that you know that eating this is not serving your highest self, and you still eat it, you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? And most people ask the question, should I or should I not have this Chick-fil-A? Should I or should I not have this 70-gram sugar pumpkin spice latte from Starbucks? it's like the real question is why? Why do I even want this in the first place? And I'm going to give some tangible tips as well, but I think I always just have to address the mindset first because that is the root, and I'm a root cause healer. And since I hear that all the time, I know what I need to do, but for some reason I don't do it. Like when I went through my burnout and went through the spiritual awakening, I really started to realize what that actually meant. And a lot of that is just like not thinking you're worthy enough to be healthy, not thinking you're worthy enough to lose weight, not thinking your body is worthy enough to consume the raw materials that literally build you from the inside out. Like, do you want to be made from Oreos or do you want to be made from avocados? Like literally the food you eat is the building blocks to your body. Your skin rejuvenates like every 30 days. Your gut rejuvenates every like 3 days. And so it's crazy how quickly you can like literally switch your biology, and you're literally like upgrading your software by eating healthier food. So I just want to start with that. But again, I think this is something I have to check myself on because everything is so ingrained. And like now the RFK is in office, it's like, oh, everybody knows this stuff. And we all live in our own silo and we have our echo chambers of social media. I mainly follow wellness and, health stuff. But, I think every time I go to the grocery store, objectively, I just realize that a lot of people still don't know this stuff. Or like even earlier, I was on a call with somebody else and I was like, oh, I was up at this regenerative farm like a few weeks ago. And she's like, what's regenerative farming? And so for me, like that actually helps because I'm like, oh, okay, like people still just not even like, I'm better, they're worse. It's just like people just aren't taught this stuff. Right. So I think first things first, like for me, just like speaking from my own journey, like as much as you can, like make the investment to buy organic and eat organic because it absolutely matters. It's much more nutrient dense. It's healthier for the soil. It's healthier for your body. Eating grass-fed, preferably grass-finished and hopefully regenerative meat, wild-caught fish, nuts and seeds, good sources of fiber, which comes from fruits and vegetables. Cut out as much seed oils as you can, meaning like safflower, sunflower, canola oil, rapeseed oil, cottonseed oil, and use like avocado oil, ghee butter, tallow, organic extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil. Like these are things that are going to lower inflammation in your body. And for me, it was a combination of like, reducing sugar and sleeping better and all these things and just like juicing more, which is why I love what your business is and what you stand for. But like I got rid of conventional, meaning non-organic dairy, and I got rid of conventional wheat, like pretty much like cold turkey.
Yeah.
And I think that probably made the biggest difference. But again, at the time, I didn't know that cheese and milk and conventional American bread was causing my acne and all this inflammation until I got rid of it. So it goes back to the same thing we keep talking about. Like you have to remove yourself from the environment to really see what's going on.
Exactly. I don't like to get too in the weeds with nutritional philosophies because I think, again, like we said earlier, there's a lot of different ways to get to the end goal. And I think you and I have different nutritional philosophies as far as that goes. But I think the things that we can agree on are getting rid of processed foods, getting rid of processed sugars, eating organic. I think the things that everyone can agree on, no matter what side that you fall on with nutritional philosophies. Because I think that, again, there's a lot of different ways to get to the same place. And I think that for me, the focus is always, what can you do? Like what's easy? Because I think it's hard. People, there's so much out there about this diet and that diet, and this is good, and I shouldn't do this, and I should do this. And at the end of the day, like some easy, tangible things that you can do is you can remove processed foods from your diet. Don't eat out. And if you're going to eat out, eat at Choice Juicery.
That's an easy choice.
But yeah, like just getting rid of the processed foods, the seed oils, the processed sugars, like the sugar loaded drinks, like you're talking about, like those Starbucks drinks. I saw this post on social media the other day and they were like, oh, Jessica, what's going on? What happened? It was like somebody's Starbucks order and it was like, 7 pumps of vanilla and blah, 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 blah. And it was just like, like clearly something's going on with Jessica.
Yeah.
But also like, just the things that we normalize, right? That are, it's just wild to me. So yeah, but more than, because we can tell people all day long, like you should do this, you should do this, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. I find that like, the emotional connection to eating. One of the things that I like that you talked about on your feed was how like people often feel peer pressured to make bad choices, right? I'm a little bit different. Like I'm used to swimming upstream, going against the grain. I've been doing that for a long time in my life. And so I don't have a problem saying, oh, I don't drink alcohol, or, oh, I don't eat that, or there's nothing on the menu for me, so I'll just eat later, or whatever. I don't have a problem being that difficult or abnormal or the weird one in the group or whatever. But I think for a lot of people, they do. It's hard for them. They don't want to offend people. They don't want to hurt people's feelings. They don't want to seem difficult. They don't, but at the expense of their own inner knowing or the expense of their own well-being. And so what do you say to people like that? How do you help someone like that who struggles to make good choices when they're in company of other people?
The biggest thing I've learned is that people do not know how to put themselves first. They put the peace of others in front of their own. And there's another book you might like. It's called Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima. And she says, may the peace within you never be at the mercy of keeping the peace around you.
Wow.
And so when people say like, oh, there's peer pressure and like, I don't want to drink, but I do because all my friends are doing it. Or like I'm at the barbecue on Labor Day and like someone hands me a burger and like, of course I'm just going to eat it. It's understandable. The body's super resilient. You don't have to be like crazy about it. But when you realize what industrialization does to our food system and then what it does to your body, like to me, it's worth it to make those decisions that you actually want to make. And I think that's like the biggest thing I see is like people, they just have this chronic people pleasing, quite frankly, that they don't know how to solve, or they don't know how to build boundaries. And so then they just say yes when they actually mean no. And that to me is the most energy draining thing to do of all time.
So
and
true.
That is what burnt me out so much, is I didn't have boundaries. I was people pleasing in different ways. I mean, I'm also like have built an identity of being healthy and into nutrition. So people kind of just assume now.
Yeah.
But when I first started doing it, if anyone's listening to this, like before I even became a health coach, like when I started getting more curious and I injured my shoulder, started shopping at Whole Foods, and I was like, I'm eating healthier, starting to like respect more what goes in my body. Like this alcohol thing doesn't really align. Like this is poison. Like if I'm eating healthier, this kind of feels like a double life here. Like, you know, again, the body's resilient, but ultimately this thing is poison. And so I get it. Like I have a lot of empathy and sympathy for people, because you will get pushback. You will get resistance. People will say, oh, you're not as fun as you used to be. Or like, I wish you would come out with us. Or like, why are you being so lame? And at the end of the day, like you have to have enough self-respect to make the decisions you actually want to make. And this is the thing I always say is self-care is not selfish. It's actually the exact opposite, because you can't show up as good as you possibly can for the people that you love. And that is the number one thing. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about like the trauma healing and the emotional healing, is because I can tell people like, hey, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. But until you heal your people pleasing and your lack of boundaries, like you're going to continue to make decisions that you don't actually want to make. And you're going to say yes when you actually meant no. And you're literally making those decisions quite literally at the expense of your health. If you don't want to drink the alcohol, but you say yes just because you want to fit in, you're literally poisoning your body. Or if you eat the cake, even though you don't actually want it, you say yes because you're at the wedding and whatever, you're literally injuring your own body. And again, the body is resilient. My point saying all this is that people pleasing literally makes you sick.
It's so true. And how you do anything is how you do everything. And so likely if you're struggling with boundary setting or people pleasing in the area of food, it's bleeding into other parts of your life. And when you get that under control, you're going to watch that transform so many other areas of your life. Like when you're not afraid to say no to something that you don't want, you're going to build that strength. The first time you have that uncomfortable, like, I'm not going to have that drink tonight, but thanks. I'm like, what? Come on, have a drink. You're seriously going to make me drink alone? Some people will be like, oh, okay, sure. You know, but when you exercise that muscle, no, not tonight. I'm not drinking. And you feel what that feels like in your body. Oh, it feels good. And then it's just like any muscle that we're building. You pick up that weight. The first time it's hard. The second time it's not as hard, you know, and then as time goes on, you're like, wow, this is easy. Like, I guess better step up that weight, you know? And so it gets easier and easier as you learn how to put those boundaries in place. The last thing that I'm sure you get this a lot being in this space. Like I don't do like health and wellness coaching anymore these days. Naturally, just a byproduct of my life. Like it happens, but I used to do this, and I, had nutrition clients and things like that. And one of the things that I would get all the time is like, I came here for a good time, not a long time. People would say that to me all the time. Like you just get those people that they just like, especially with my older two, they're adults now, but my daughter used to say this to me all the time. Like, I didn't come here for a long time. I came here for a good time. That was her argument to me whenever I'd be like, don't get the Starbucks, don't poison your body, don't do this thing. And I'm curious to know if that's something you faced in your coaching, just being in the health and wellness space. I'm sure you have family members and friends and loved ones that come to you, and maybe they struggle with getting sick all the time or whatever it is, but they're making these choices. And then when you try to point that out to them, if that's a response that you have had to deal with and how you handle that.
I think it's the biggest fear of most people who are thinking about changing their health and their nutrition, is that they believe that their life is going to be boring. It's going to be less fun. They're going to feel lonely. They're going to feel like an outcast. And at the end of the day, like if you want to become the best version of yourself and you're living in a version that you're not happy with, then yeah, you got to change things within so that things change without, right, externally.
Mm-hmm.
And there's such a false narrative that if you're healthy, you won't have fun. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, that's been like something that's really fired me up. That's like really kind of this North Star for me now. And I've talked about it on another podcast and I've posted about it on my Instagram. It is just like this dogma that like you're going to lose all your friends. You're never going to have fun. You can't have the food you love. But when you reset your taste buds, you reset your mindset, you realize that when you go back to like the original design of the human body and the human biology and how we're meant to live and how we're meant to feel, we've said it 6 times now. Like you do not know how bad you felt until you start feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
And literally me being on this podcast, this is, I think, my like 18th guest podcast now, coaching 85 clients. I'm now living in the mountains, like in solitude, in a place I absolutely love, in nature, going on hikes, being at these lakes. I'm working remote. I'm a digital nomad. Like I have more energy, more happiness, and more fun than I've ever had in my entire life. So I'm really trying to reverse that narrative that you have to like sacrifice everything in your life in order to be healthy, which, the environment that we're set up in, there are things that you have to sacrifice and you have to change if you want to feel a certain way. But on the other side of that pain or that resistance, based on all the clients I've worked with, based on all the experiences I've had, meeting people like yourself, like there is nothing that feels better than being healthy. And so many people are obsessed with compound interest when it comes to finances. That's like the only way we apply compound interest. If you read this book, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, probably my second favorite book next to Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life, it works in every aspect of your life. So why are you investing $200 to $250, $500, $600 a month for your retirement, but you are not making daily choices, the food you eat 3 times a day, 365 a year for your entire life, right? And most people are working their ass off in this job that they hate, that's stressing them out, that's making them unhealthy, to hopefully get to 60 or 65 to retire, to maybe be healthy enough for 10 to 20 years, even though the lifespan in America is literally 75, the average lifespan, which is going down because of all the chronic illness.
Right.
And it's like, you're working all this time, sacrificing all this stuff, working on like saving money, and then you maybe have 10 years to enjoy it. Like, why do you not have the same mentality about your health? Like, I get it. Like, unfortunately, eating organic is more of an investment than cheap food, and that's how the system is set up. But if you have a mindset of like, oh, I'm going to spend $2 extra for these organic pasture raised eggs instead of buying, the ones that are $2 less that are fed antibiotics and crappy feed that makes me feel like crap and causes skin issues. It's like, what's worth it? What's more worth it? Spending an extra $2 or like getting the cheaper thing just because it's cheaper? It's like, if I eat this, then I have better health. I have more energy. That means I can be more successful. That means I can make more money. That means I'm happier. I'm more peaceful. Not a lot of people think like that. They just say, oh, this meat is $2 cheaper than this, so I'm going to buy this one. But it's like, there's a different way to look at it.
Everything, obviously I'm in the juice space and I'm plant-based, so it's a little bit different for me, but same thing with organic produce and organic juice. I mean, obviously everything I do is organic, and the same thing with that, you get a lot of pushback. People are like, oh, like that juice is expensive. It's like, okay, well, it's the alternative is a pesticide cocktail. And the reality is we got to put our money as our vote. And so we're voting for a healthier soil. We're voting for healthier bodies and a healthier future. But also, like you're saying, it's compounding interest. It's like, if you sacrifice, what is that saying? Don't sacrifice your future on the altar of the immediate, right? It's like, I'm going to make this choice right now because maybe this is going to feel good in this moment. It's less expensive in this moment, but at the expense of the future me. And the future me is like, okay, how do I want to feel when I'm 60? How do I want to feel when I'm 50? How do I want to feel? I mean, I look at me today, like this is, when I was in my 20s, I look back at pictures of me in my 20s. I look and feel better today at this age than I did in my 20s, which is crazy. My kids were showing me some videos they got. Their grandparents had like these home video VHSs that they converted onto digital. And so we were watching these videos of their childhood, and I didn't even recognize myself. I was like, oh my God, it's crazy that 20 years later, I look and feel better in my body than I did back then. And that is the compounding interest right there. It's like in my 20s is when I decided to start taking my health journey seriously. I solidified my nutritional philosophy. I started eating organic. I went plant-based at that time. I started just like eating whole foods. I stopped eating fast food. I stopped eating, boxed dinners and all that junk that I was eating. I got rid of gluten for the most part. And, again, went organic, and who I am today and how I show up today, my energy levels today. Like my friends always joke and call me the Energizer Bunny because I have more energy than anyone I know. I'm crazy. I always tell people, like, you don't want to see me on espresso. I don't do that for a reason because I'm already psycho, with energy levels without that. So yeah, it's worth the investment, and I say to that same thing that we started this conversation around. You think, okay, I didn't come here for a long time. I came here for a good time, but you don't even know what a good time is, because the common theme of this whole conversation has been like, you don't know that you feel bad until you feel good. And once you feel good in your body, I think there's nothing in this world that you'll trade off for that. Like there's nothing in this world. Of course, every now and again, I'll have like a cheat meal or something. And I'm like, such a good reminder of why I eat clean like 99% of the time, because I it's not worth the feeling bad. And I know what feeling bad feels like because my homeostasis is feeling good. I feel good all the time. I have high energy levels all the time. I feel happy, mentally healthy. Like the things that I struggled with in my 20s, depression and anxiety, and the things that I had since eating the way that I started eating, I don't struggle with so much of what I did struggle with back in the day because I eat clean, and it reflects in my skin, it reflects in my vitality and my energy levels and my health and all those things. So I think it's worth giving yourself a try, like giving it a try. And I say that to people all the time, like give yourself 30 days, go on a clean diet for 30 days, see what that feels like before you decide what a good time is. And I think you might reconsider what it's like to have a good time, when you know what it's like to feel good in your body.
I love that. I think honestly, the main thing that I try to do with my clients, and I feel like I'm very successful at it, is teaching my clients to genuinely want to eat healthy food. Because I think that's the zeitgeist and the dogma in nutrition is like, oh, I have to be restrictive. I can't have a cheat meal. Even that terminology, I think, could be toxic. It's like, no, your body's super resilient. So if you are at a wedding and you want to have a piece of cake, that's fine. Don't think about it for 20 minutes, whether or not you should have it. Like bless it before you eat it and know that like it's not a big deal. Or if you're out at a dinner and you genuinely don't want to have that greasy burger, get the salad instead with some, protein or something. Or like you do, like I even tell my clients, like pregame the dinner, like have like a healthy, protein rich like smoothie. Maybe go to Choice Juicery. Honestly, I've probably done that before without realizing it. But the really last thing I want to say is like, whether it's food or it's medication or it's a relationship with another human, I think the biggest question you have to ask yourself is like, does this decision align with my future self? And does this pull me closer to myself or further away from myself? So does this medication numb out the feelings I'm supposed to feel? Does it give me side effects that literally pulls me away from learning more about myself? Or does this Cheetos, or does this Oreo, or does this like maybe even greenwashed, seemingly healthy processed food? Like even if it's healthier, it's still from a box or bag. Like does that pull me closer to myself or push me further away? Or if I have a beautiful smoothie from Choice Juicery that has spirulina and, all these leafy greens and avocado and banana and all these like healthy foods that come from earth, that's Mother Nature, does that bring me closer to myself? That's a choice that brings me closer to myself. So I think those are the types of questions we need to ask ourselves.
Love that. That's a beautiful spot to end. I know we're running short on time, but before we let you go, tell the audience, how do they get in touch with you if they want to learn more about what you do and follow you? You're amazing on Instagram. You have so many great videos and just such great content that's so helpful and supportive to people on their health and wellness journey. So how do they find you?
I'd start with a little joke, because I think when I did that 5-day digital detox, I like posted on my Instagram. I was like, if you need me, don't. So I kind of have that same feeling right now up in the mountains. I don't know if you know Ben Greenfield, but he lives in like Idaho. And I was talking to someone the other day, and he was like, yeah, in order for us to reach him, we had to like call his team, email his team, and then he had to like plug in his Wi-Fi, and then we had a call with him. So that's honestly like the ultimate goal I'm trying to get to. Obviously, like remaining connected and being community, and there's beauty of like digital connection, and I'm very grateful that it's connected us. But yeah, all joking aside, I'd say Instagram is my main platform, just at Superfood Superhuman, all singular, all one word. A website, superfoodsuperhuman.com. I'm on TikTok a little bit, but definitely not as much as Instagram. And then if you go in my link in my bio in Instagram, that's where I have like most of my resources. I even right now have, I think it's like 10 or 12, guided meditations that I've actually recorded myself, just like a free resource through Google Drive if anyone wants to check that out. And then if anyone's interested in coaching or just getting some help with their nutrition, because I know it's very daunting, and like paralysis by analysis is a very real thing. And yeah, here to help, because as I even listened to that Casey Means podcast the other day again, I was like, wow, I forgot how important this is.
Yeah.
So let's continue to help people and heal them one bite at a time.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Mike. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I feel like we could talk forever about all this stuff. So maybe we'll have to revisit the conversation at some point in the future. But for now, I think that's a great place to stop. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Nastasha. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for listening in. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could leave a review so we can reach more people. I might even share your review on future episodes. If you go to the link in the show notes, you can find and sign up for our newsletter so that you're notified when a new episode comes out. You can support the show by purchasing anything from the Choice Juicery online shop at choicejuicery.com. Or, of course, if you're lucky enough to live in San Diego, you can visit any of our 7 locations here in San Diego and Orange County. And please feel free to connect with me on social media at Nastasha Mckeon. That's NASTASHAMCKEON. Don't forget that extra S. Or you can connect with us at the Choice Juicery Instagram at Choice Juicery. Thanks again for listening in.